an ephemera relating to the history and development of Sonoma County Russian River area, and resorts, social and civic organizations, festivals, parades, cemeteries, railroads, bridges, schools, mining and logging operations, as well as documents associated with Fort Ross and Bohemian Grove and Bohemian Club, and much more. And the materials were collected over about a 60-year period. So what I'm going to do, the first few slides are going to be just kind of a sampling of some of the items in the collection. So we have matchbook covers, which are really wonderful in telling sort of the history of the area's business community. Things advertising parades and events. I was curious about this Monterito Water Carnival. Was 1925 the first carnival that was ever had?
What we have in archives is early 20s, that's all I know.
Okay.
I think it was earlier than that.
All right.
Was it, Dennis?
Okay.
Because the postcards will be dated. There's a lot of Ray postcards of the Water Carnival
Okay.
with dates.
Oh,
on
great.
them, You know.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. And maybe those are in the archives of the Russian River Historical Society.
So, we have photographs, not postcards,
Okay.
that I've found so far.
Okay. And that's maybe a point to make here. Although this is a very large collection that's been organized and cataloged, John's materials and obviously the history of Russian River area is elsewhere to be found. So on the left here, in this image are 2 pages from a large scrapbook that are stuffed with business cards and envelopes which document the wide array of resorts, contracting firms, fraternal organizations, doctors and other professionals, restaurants, and more. And I was just looking, I realized, let's see if I can do this, zoom in. You know, even things, you know, campaign materials, which are also found elsewhere within the collection. And then we've got, so the collection includes a number of court documents, such as these relating to a 1949 case that I believe John salvaged from a garbage can or from being thrown away when he was working as a bailiff in the Sonoma County courts for the Sheriff's Department. The blueprint was included as an exhibit that was used in the case. The only other items in this folder that he had was what was called a Civilian Production Administration Application, which is dated March 14th, 1947, so 2 years prior to the court case. And the case was, as you see here, between Philip Glover and Harvey Town. And what they were, from this simple form, the typewritten form that was in this file, is they were requesting approval to construct a residence and 6 cabins to be used for vacationers between May and October. And after that, it would be rented to miners, and I thought this was an interesting term for the 40s, essential workers, which is so common today, in Guerneville. Glover planned to live on the property and with his family and manage it, while town was supposed to finance it. But apparently something went awry because they ended up in court. So I don't know if this ever got developed. Yes?
So with something like that, you have the physical artifacts. Did John provide you with any explanation of what it was, or did you just have to suss it out?
I am really glad you brought that up. I mean, he did write notes on things, especially like on the backs of photographs to identify them, the year, that kind of thing. But yeah, no, this was just sitting here. Why is this? And it was really difficult. I had to balance between, I mean, I wanted to research practically every item that I came across, and that was not going to happen if we were ever going to finish it. So in this case, yes, thankfully we have newspapers.com nowadays, and so it was really easy to look up Glover in town. But yeah, and then I had to really reined myself in, because like, oh, Harvey Town he was a realtor, he was all this stuff, and it's like, nope, stop. So that's for something else to do. Your job is to identify it enough so that if someone else wants to take it a step further, they know it exists. So, thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Russian River's lumber industry is also well documented by materials found within John's collection. On the left is a bill of sale from the Sonoma Lumber Company dated April 16th, 1897. And on the right is a document related to the California Lumber Manufacturing Company. And it's a certificate of increase in capital stock dated March 25th, 1853.
Wow.
So there are some very old things in this collection. John organized a large number of documents associated with George Gurn and others in binders. So what we're seeing in this picture is George Gurn, his family, his business, and his real estate holdings. And again, John did a really nice job of sorting them out. And so I just kind of had, in this case, just sort of had to tidy it up and then put it in an archival box and include it in the inventory. Oh, there's so many wonderful historic images. Again, just a few here, such as this one from 1918 showing the South Side Farm. This is one that I kind of went a little, South Farm, I think I'm hopefully pronouncing that right. Memorial Ambulance. I love it's quite a plaque on the door there. And so it's the ambulance and the committee that was responsible for raising the funds to purchase it. And that was Lee O'Torr, Harry Burke, Florence Crawford, and many others. And this is also a case, those names were not on the back of this picture, but I did do a little research. And the reason it's called the Jack Houseman Memorial Ambulance is this was the first person from Monterey to be killed during the Korean War. He was in the U.S. Marine Corps, private first class. I'm pretty sure, because I was able to zoom in on the slate there, that this is 1948, the Guerneville School float, I'm presuming in the Stumptown Days Parade. And I thought I was being so clever by including this picture, which is of course on the flyer for the cemetery tour that will be held next weekend. But this is one of John's images, and on the back he wrote, Guerneville Cemetery, looking east prior to 1906.
Because George Valley's not there.
Right.
Washington Valley's not
And
there.
he also included part of the Bagley collection, and we'll get to the Bagleys in a little bit. So, Russian River is a paradise for hunters and fishermen is also a topic covered. The map on the left shows where different types of fish, as well as abalone, deer, ducks, grouse, and quail can be found. And then on the right is one of several items associated with the Russian River Sportsman Club. This, well, I'll probably say this more than once, one of my favorite finds. And this was one where it's like, I'm not sure what category this goes in, but what you're looking at is an invitation to a party to celebrate the end of World War II, where we'll crowd 3 years in 3 days fun. And this incredible illustration and a poem, and I have no idea who created it, but it's a pretty amazing piece of history. And then I don't know if you can see there, but it says, the Jello girl will be there. Who is the Jello girl?
Maybe somebody in this room knows.
Yeah. Okay. And as you might expect, lots of items within the collection that document the Russian River area as a vacation destination. Everything from hotels, cottages, cabins, to trailer parks. On the Gernwood Village flyer, John wrote 1946 in pencil on the back. And something I just noticed about this is, can you see that? the celebrated Dr. Carl R. Crone, pathologist of Lakeside Hospital, Chicago, Illinois, will reside at Cazadero and conduct a first-class sanitarium. He's a pathologist? So that bears a little further investigation.
How first class can it be?
I don't,
What's the date on it?
Is there a date on that, Kathy?
I think it's from the, I want to say 1890s, but I'm not positive. We could,
Probably for TV though.
but why pathologists? Isn't that skin?
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Cells.
pathology.
Facial, it was actually a spa. No, I'm kidding. Okay. So you may be asking yourself, how did John's collection end up at Sonoma State? Well, there were several conversations that took place between John and Lynn Prime, the recently retired head of special collections, about, what to do with his things. And I do recall Lynn telling me that John approached her in 2017 at the Finding History Day event that was at the Turk Round Barn, where she and her colleagues had a table. And I suspect that was May, and then we had the fires, and I think he just really, and we've had flooding, he started being more and more persistent about finding a home. And so then Lynn was able to come and see it and realize, yeah, this is something that we want. Also, John was an alumni of Sonoma State. Now, just so you don't think that just because you're an alumni that your collection can go to Sonoma State, they have some requirements as to what they accept. And you probably can't read this, but I just wanted to let you know, maybe you can. I wanted to let you know on the Sonoma State's website, they have a page that talks about the kinds of things that they collect. Sorry, you're having to look at the
That's
side of my
all right.
face.
It's a pretty profile.
So in this case, a goal of the Sonoma State Library University Special Collections is to collect and preserve materials that document the history, people, and culture of the North Bay, and fill gaps and complement existing collections that are not, this is like a run-on sentence, that are not available at other institutions. The uniqueness and the breadth of topics included in this collection was key to them accepting it, as was the fact that it came processed. Because, whoops, I guess we're going to get to that. You'll see what it looked like before I got a hold of it. So one of the things was it was felt that Sonoma State students could learn about the area's history in ways from these materials that they might not from others. So here again are just a few topics that I pulled out thinking that would be useful to SSU students and others. One being the topic of environment. And so these are items from John's, actually his research files, which there's 5 boxes that are just organized by subject. So it was felt that John's materials complemented existing environmental collections that the college has, such as the Coast scrapbooks, Bill Cordham's papers, Charles Reinhart's papers, no relation to me, Ernestine Smith papers, etc. Another fun find. I have to think that this little brochure that's, talking about don't be a litter bug, was created in 1959, was a precursor to, give a hoot, don't pollute campaign. But again, really fun illustrations. And then on the back side, there's, where you should be taking your garbage, not dropping it off on the side of the road. So again, sort of an environmental, unique item. Local politics. Shown here are documents associated with the Congress for Community Progress, 1968. An announcement for the first meeting for the Russian River Tomorrow, which was in 1973, which was maybe maybe it's still around, a citizens committee established by those concerned about planning, health, safety, building issues, taxes, historic preservation, pollution of the river, and more. It's like a pretty tall order. Political campaign materials. These are from box numbers 68 or 69 and 70. And Nin Wadati, there was so much stuff on him, he got his own folder. Now, if you're interested in the history of education at the state and local level, here's a collection that will be of interest to you. And the one thing is John collected a lot of things, maybe at first glance, you're like, why does he have this? But, you open this up, it's like, oh yeah, it's all of the state of California, but it's also Sonoma County, and then what was going on locally. So he has a lot of state materials that have local items within them. And then local. It's got a number of these school directories. This one's from 1918 to 1919, and then there's one there from 1897. And these are really great because they give the names of schools, many of which don't exist anymore, the names of the teachers and the principals and the locations. So those are pretty fun, for not just for the Russian River area, but all of Sonoma County. But back to the Russian River area, he also has a number of school attendance account books, attendance and account books for Ridenour School and Mount Jackson School. And these might be useful for people doing genealogy. I know that my grandmother went to one of these schools. How many days was she absent? But it also gives you a sense of the subjects taught and so forth. And then historic preservation is another topic covered by the collection, including the documentation of this very building, the Marshall House, which John, and I'm sure many of you in this room, had a big part in saving. So other historic preservation topics covered in the collection include various bridges. I love the Bridge Club. I came across that reference. George's Hideaway, Duncan's Mills, Historic District Survey, Design Guidelines, and Historical and Architectural Survey for Girdville. Now, art probably isn't the first topic that comes to mind when you're thinking about what John was collecting, but it does. Another really neat, very unique item, I feel, is this little book, Rio Neto Summer School of Arts from 1918. And this was, I don't know how many weeks it was, or maybe it was just a week, where Lorenzo P. Latimer, which I don't know, that might be familiar to some of you, a prolific California landscape painter and highly respected teacher, taught classes here during the summer. And not just Latimer, you also had, this is what you learned from this little book, Joseph Lemos, an American painter, architect, illustrator, writer, lecturer, and the director of Stanford Museum, and his brother John Lemos. And John studied at the San Francisco Institute of Art and taught at Palo Alto High School, and along with his wife Miriam headed the art department at the Latham Foundation in Alameda, which is still in existence. So here would be an example of, I kind of went a little hog wild on the research, because, just looking at this, oh, okay, it's a cool little thing from 1918, put it away. But I wanted to know more of the story. And so there you have it. And then this is, the book also indicates, well, here's the description of the faculty, and then here's the type of classes that were offered. And then another favorite part of my collection are these beautiful original vacation books from the Northwestern Pacific Railroad. But I felt that these were, for anyone interested in art, were something that should be known about. And you probably are all familiar, especially Chris, who's been reading all the past newsletters. But John, I think there was an article on the artist, George Frederick Mannel, a German-born commercial artist who was employed by Forest and Stream magazine, Northwestern Pacific, which is the books that we're seeing here, the American Automobile Association, and others. And so I have all John's research on Mannel. And then in there was also correspondence with what we know today as AAA, American Automobile Association, because he was corresponding with them about Mandel's work there. And then I saw that the person he was communicating with was so inspired by the research that John had done on this individual that they did their own article and they credit John in there. So this, I thought when I first saw this, there was, some sort of a New Deal era item. But it turns out, I don't know if John collected this because it has a vacation stamp mark and the Vacation California. But did he also realize that these were created by a man named John Coltham, a commercial artist who is widely known in the book and publishing industry? And they're called, new word for me, a cachet, which is a design or inscription on an envelope. And if you look that up, anybody who's a stamp collector is very interested in these. Here's another one. And I thought this was interesting. The artist addressed it to himself. He was from Modesto. But again, for John, I suspect it was the Duncan's Mills stamp there that caught his attention. And he does have a whole binder of envelopes with really old stamps and postmarks. Okay, and then finally, anyone still in the art realm here? Anyone researching the history of late 19th and early 20th century California photographers will be interested in the Schubert collection. Shown here is the Cyrus and Margaret Meredith family posing in front of their home in Pocket Canyon. And the photo was taken by William N. Cullum, a San Francisco photographer who was documenting California during the 1880s and 1890s. And how do we know that? Again, the pen is John's handwriting, but I'm not sure. The rest of it I think is somebody else. Cullum operated a studio in the Flood Building in San Francisco and specialized, as you can see here, in views of residences, buildings, livestock, farms, orchards, landscapes, and portraits. I did find a newspaper article, 1896, he was in Yosemite. So he's one of these traveling photographers. And I've found set photos at Chico, Bancroft Library, and the Sonoma County Library have some of his work. Local photographers are also represented, and here is an image produced by Downing, Rea, and Rocher of Santa Rosa. And Downing was a brother-in-law to John Washington Bagley, and so there are a number of Downing pictures within the collection. And what did I find here? More stuff on him. Again, you see John's handwriting, so he's done his research. And I don't know why the edges are kind of wonky there, if they were cut out of a book or something, but fun. Speaking of the Bagleys, here we have Herbert Lincoln Bagley in his Knights of Templar garb, and that was a photograph or a portrait by Frederick Mercereau, not sure I'm pronouncing that right, of San Francisco. And then we have Amy Lee Bagley, another Santa Rosa photographer. And this, I didn't realize it until I put these here. I suspect the photo on the left was maybe an engagement photo because it said Edna Cole and Herbert Lincoln Bagley. And that's Pagot and Shaw of Santa Rosa. And then later, it looks like they're married and have 2 kids. You can see Herbert has a little less hair there. And Edna's changed her hairstyle. And I don't know if they were in Ukiah because the studio was in Ukiah or what the case was. But again, another photographer. And then another would be Andrew Price, who was born 1843 in Ireland. He came to the U.S. as a child. He was a Civil War veteran, one-time Justice of the Peace. And as a pioneer photographer living in Healdsburg, he once occupied a building on the corner of Matheson and Center Streets. During his later years, he was engaged in real estate. Now, my question is this a picture of Andrew Price? I have no idea, because this is what you're seeing on the right is the back side of it, so it's kind of like a calling card. I was thinking about real estate agents today, you know, they've got their face on grocery carts and stuff, so same idea. And why me? So we've talked about why Sonoma State. How did I get involved? Well, I've known John, or knew John, for many years from working at the Sonoma County History and Genealogy Library, where John spent a whole lot of his time poring over microfilm. And then I think in this picture, let's see, zoom in. Zoom. That's not going to do it. There you go. I'm trying to remember the mustache. Is there like a Whiskerino contest in the Stumptown
No,
days? Or?
he had grown a beard for one of the cemetery tours.
Okay.
And then I think he kept the mustache and shaved off the beard and then
Yeah. I remember,
eventually-
yeah, one day he came in like Santa Claus. But I was looking at the box that he's got there. I don't know if you can see the words Claire on it. That's a reminder to me to tell you that some of John's materials are also at the Sonoma County History and Genealogy Libraries. Over the years, he would sort of donate a little bit here, a little bit there. But there is a whole lot of Clar materials at Sonoma State. Okay, so he knew me and my background, and I knew him. And then Lynn Prime, the head of special collections at Sonoma State, also knew me. So when Lynn agreed to take the collection, she couldn't take it like this. They just don't have the staff or the funds to. It would have just sat in some back room for years. And so I don't know how it all came about, but what if John hires Katherine to process it in a way that meets our specifications? Then we can accept it. And so and then Sonoma State paid for all the archival boxes and things. So it was a unique situation, but it worked. But this is what it looked like. He had brought many things from Guerneville to Santa Rosa, and this, for those of you, I assume most of you know Sarah. This is on her property in Santa Rosa. And that's just to kind of give you an idea. A lot of it, like it was in binders and organized. Some of it needed some work. And there's John with his hand in his pocket. And initially, so this was I looked at it in May and I started working for him in July. And initially, I thought I was going to be able to do the job at Sarah's. But it became, you can't even swing a hamster, let alone a cat in that room, and it just wasn't working. So I thought he allowed me to take some of it to my house in Petaluma, and this is my garage. V8 cans full, make really good paperweights, by the way. If you're wondering what's sitting on top of those things. So I took some of it, and I think this was around August 2021, and got it to where then we could take it to Sonoma State. So here we are, getting ready to go. Oops. Yeah, okay. Now, so a lot of John's stuff was were binders, but not all. We had some odd shaped things, oversized, so we had some work to do. And even the binders, I had to kind of reorganize a little bit. One of the first things I did, though, with the collection is in speaking with Lynn Prime, was pulling out things that kind of could be standalone and be cataloged separate from the collection. So, for instance, this really great, it doesn't come across in this slide, but it's like a magazine, Sonoma County and Russian River Valley Illustrated. It's from 1888. And it's by Bell, and I think it's pronounced Hymans. You can purchase this at 8 books for $1,500. So it's a rare item. It's something Sonoma State did not have, and it warranted being on its own. And it obviously includes much more than just Russian River. It's this great map of Verona, which I'm presuming is El Verano today. So we pulled that out. Some other things, and these are just a few of the items. 1889 Illustrated Fraternal Directory, and you think, it's kind of a weird thing, why would you want that? Well, if you're looking into any kind of fraternal organization in Sonoma County, it's including this area, it's gonna be mentioned in here. But it also was people advertised in here, so there's Lytton Springs being discussed with a great image and talking about how the new Lytton Springs Resort located 3 miles north of Healdsburg was going to be opening soon. Another item, at first glance you think, why? The title, and it is the Shreve Jewelry Company we know today, the full title of this book, hold on, San Francisco Blue Book, the Fashionable Private Address Directory for San Francisco, Oakland, Berkeley, and Alameda for 1907. No Sonoma County mentioned there, but it also had listings for every women's club in California, including, among other things, a Petaluma historian. And I was so excited to find the Petaluma Ladies Improvement Club. And the officers as well as the members. But there's also things on the Masonic order from Petaluma, or from Guerneville and other things. But it's a book, so hold that out. But we didn't separate it from the collection. Yes, you can see this. So for anything like this that was removed from the collection, so to speak, and cataloged individually, you'll see there under the local notes, gift of John Schubert forms part of the John Schubert Russian River collection. So they're tied together in that way. Oh, and then I also wanted to show Sonoma State, their website's really great. So you go down and you say, I'm really interested in seeing this book. It's not something that's going to be on the open shelves. How do I look at it? Well, you can click on where it says special collections materials available for appointment only, and then you could click, I hope to make this work, but you would click down there and then you get this contact us. So you get the phone number, email, and then how to request an appointment. And there's Lynn Prime, who retired in July. He's very much a part of this project, yes.
So are you saying that a book like that is physically in a different part of the library? Okay.
It's in what they call the enclosure. It's on the same floor. It's nearby, but in a different, it's not in that same room. And then there were things within John's collection that really seemed like they were more appropriately placed with a different institution, such as these road petitions, which I knew from my experience with the Sonoma County Library and the Sonoma County Archives collection. There are several boxes of these road petitions that were, and the reason they're in the Sonoma County Archives collection is because they were part of the Board of Supervisors. So I felt these should go back, it should be joined with others like it. So I think they haven't made it there yet, but they're in safe hands. Same was in the case with this. I happen to know that within the archives collection are these transcripts that are bound exactly like this. Now I know I looked up the case, and it was obvious why John had these, because R.M. Hawker and W.D. Cannon were Guerneville merchants charged with arson in conjunction with a fire that took place in Guerneville September 25th, 1919. But these will also go back, hopefully we'll end up with the Sonoma County Archives collection. And then there were things, because of their condition, that Sonoma State wasn't able to accept. Books with mold or damaged in some other manner. What you're seeing there on the left are school texts that were used. I think the only reason he acquired them was because they would have a stamp for the name of the school, so the local school.
Out Jackson and Mary.
Okay. But there, and a few were kept, but most were returned, as were this, he was so proud of this box, this wooden box of newspapers that I think he had salvaged from some blacksmith's attic.
No,
No.
it was a water tower or something.
Oh, okay.
Water tank.
Really big. But when we opened it up, it's just falling apart.
You touch it and it crumbles.
Yeah. So those weren't something that Sonoma State could keep.
Were you able to scan those?
I have in contact, and I can't think of the gentleman's name.
Don Silver?
Yes, and he was researching someone in DC to see how we can salvage it. And,
Because they are valuable because these are, there are microfilm versions of some of the newspapers that I think John was responsible, but I don't think like this particular issue might not even exist in microfilm form.
that's what we're trying to
Yeah.
figure out how to do it now.
So started in July and then
July of
21.
2021, yeah.
And then by the spring, now I'm ready to I've got everything boxed up, inventoried. Now I just kind of needed to see what I have, and I was fortunate that during the spring break, so it's kind of odd, the special collections, which is on the 3rd floor of the Sonoma State Library, they have this big reading room area that's quiet study room. So it doesn't really relate. I mean, it's not quiet study room just for those using special collections. Anyway, so it's this big space that students are in. But during the spring, they close the doors, so I was able to really spread out. Roll, and then by the end of April, everything's done. And the finished product is now in room 3031, 3rd floor of SSU. It is in a room that has other collections such as the Sonoma Highways, Leopold Justy, Corrick Brown, Santa Rosa Symphony Collection, Dust Bowl Migration, the Hoyt earthquake photographs, etc. And I just say that because I think John, Gayla Warren has her own room. Well, she does have her own room. It's next door, but you got to share space here. So what you can't see is over here are all these shelves. But he does get his own wall. And you can see here the different sizes of boxes, and some things are rolled. And you can now find the collection. And I'm happy to share this. I think Jane probably has this, but I could send it again, the link. That will, give you an overview of the collection. And then you can actually, so this is the first part is what's called the finding aid, kind of gives an overview of the collection. And then it's a 15-page inventory. It has a lot of detail, probably more detail than a typical inventory as to what you're going to find. And it's broken down kind of by topic and then broken down further by then. One thing, I mentioned that he had his research files. What I did do, again, pretty detailed, is, box 68, it starts with albino redwoods and goes all the way to Clean Our River Coalition. And then box 69 starts with coroner reports and ends with Jenner. So it's pretty detailed. And I'm sure I forgot a lot of stuff, but questions?
Ellen Bagley's writings.
Yes.
He was the only one, I think, that had a copy of that. Is that going to be
Yes,
available?
the question was Ellen Bagley's writings. I can stand up maybe. There's a big scrapbook with all of her, well, I'm not sure if they're all of them, but all these newspaper articles that are pasted in and that are associated with her. And I think I even call that out in the inventory.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So that would be available
Mhm.
to go down.
Yeah, and so, and you do, it's not like the public library where you can just show up, but you can make an appointment. And I'm wearing another hat. I work part-time, temporarily in special collections, through the end of November, and then I'll come back again in February. So I might be the one that helps you, but there could be 2 other people that will step up for you as well. And yeah, yes.
So if you wanted to know what was contained in John's collection, you'd go to that index.
Mhm.
What if you didn't know about John's collection and you just went on to the library search? Would that information come up?
Let's see, can this work? No. Because I don't have the wireless. Yes, so you go, just Google Sonoma State Library. You get a page, and then there'll be a place where it says collections. Click on collections, and then it gives you everything from all the collections, special collections they have. And then you click on that, and then it takes you to this. And then also, if you just Google John Schubert Russian River, you will probably take you to the Online Archive of California, where again you'll find this. So it's great because there's 2 points of discovery: the library's website itself, plus this other catalog, I guess you would call it.
So any way you come from it, you'll get to that.
Mm-hmm. And then also you'll, I think we just typed John Schubert Russian River, no, just John Schubert, and I think because that's where we discovered that John had, well, I think I already knew this, but we found that John had a collection at the Sonoma County Library called, court documents or something. So he does have things a few different places, but this is probably the largest. Yes?
Would there be any possibility of any of his collection being available online?
I think,
It'd be labor intensive, but
sure, and so I don't know if you all heard that question about the future of any of these items being digitized and
like
available.
the Bancroft Library has a marvelous way. They have high resolution JPEGs available.
Yeah, and so does Sonoma State, and I'm sorry I can't get you there now, but a lot of their collections, what they'll do is they'll take, I don't know, so this is 88 boxes, so they kind of they would pick out key items and digitize them, so you could see them. And they have done that, like they just got back what's called the Leopold Justy collection. They got, I think it's about 120 items back that had been scanned and now will be uploaded to the, so yes is the answer to the question. It's just a matter of where it falls within the priorities. Yes. Yes.
So once you get into John's collection, can you put down a certain topic and it will take you there? Like a resort, an individual resort you're looking for, or something?
No,
like
you would
that?
have to go, what you would do is you would look at this, and there's actually a category for resorts, and then we would bring everything out that had to do with resorts. It's not that,
It's not online.
it's not online at this point in
So you
time.
have to go there for.
You do have to go there at this point in time. Yes.
I understand that the vast majority of what's in his collection is unique, but there were probably incidents where something in his collection duplicated what was in the library elsewhere. What did you do in that kind of situation?
Well, so there were a number of books that he gave, like for instance, Gail Barron's 19th Century and 20th Century Town and others that the library already had copies of. So we returned those to John. And I don't know about those specifically, but I know that some of the things that we returned to him, he contacted, I don't know if it was Chanticleer Books or somebody, and sold them back. Because that's the other thing, he must have spent thousands of dollars on eBay and elsewhere buying some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So he was, I think, able to recoup some of his expenditures by doing that. And then, I don't know about the rest. Okay. All right. I have business cards here, if anybody wants to follow up with me. So I am working at Sonoma State part-time, but I also do consulting. And I hope that, I mean, I keep thinking about exhibits to be done at the library with this, you know, like resorts would be a perfect one. So we'll keep in touch with Jamie on what goes forward with some of his materials. Because I'll definitely be advocating for digitizing some of the items, so.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As a pro,